Your parents bought their first house in their late 20s, but do you know what the average age of a first-time home buyer is right now? 40. That's right, 40 years old. And that's not a quirk, that's a financial crisis hidden in plain sight. We're talking about an entire generation that's been essentially locked out of the number one wealth building tool of middle-class Americans. And it's not because people today are lazy or just spending too much on coffee. The starter home, that simple, small, affordable house that let working families build equity and actually get ahead, is basically gone. So today I'm going to break down what actually happened to the starter home, who's responsible, and what you can actually do about it if you're a middle-class American trying to buy a house for the first time and you make less than 6 figures. And real quick, if you don't already know me, my name is Ryan, and after years of working shift work, nights, weekends, and holidays, I was finally able to achieve that net worth millionaire status. So if you're interested in pretty much anything personal finance and work a blue-collar job, please consider subscribing. For decades, the starter home was one of the biggest wealth building tools available to middle-class Americans. It wasn't supposed to be your forever home. It was usually a smaller house, maybe 1,000 to 1,500 square feet, nothing fancy, no granite countertops, no massive walk-in closet, just a simple, affordable home where a young family could get started. You would live there for several years, build some equity, hopefully see some appreciation, then eventually move up to a larger home. That system worked for generations, but today, many people can't even find a starter home to move into. And if they are lucky enough to stumble upon a starter home to buy, the price is usually shocking, and the note is usually more than they can rent for. So one of the reasons starter homes pretty much disappeared is because new construction homes basically got bigger. Back in the 1970s and 80s, the average new home was significantly smaller than what builders are constructing today. I live what I consider a more higher end starter home, if you will, and it's 1,800 square feet. Over time, buyers started to want larger kitchens, bigger bathrooms, extra bedrooms, home offices, bonus room, and of course, an open floor plan. And of course, home builders responded by building larger homes. Home builders want to make money, so they had to start offering homes that matched the demand. And obviously, larger homes require more materials, more lumber, more concrete, more roofing, more labor, more land. And of course, all of these things cost more money. And when the average new home gets larger, affordability naturally gets worse. So here's the part people don't really realize. Home builders aren't charities, they're businesses. So let's say a home builder can construct a 1,200 square foot home on the lot or a 2,500 square foot home on that same lot. The larger home usually generates a lot more profit because the lot and the land still has to be developed, the building permits still have to be pulled, the infrastructure still has to exist, the water lines, power, septic, etc. And many of these costs exist regardless of the house size. So if you're a home builder trying to maximize your profits, it kind of makes more sense to build a bigger house. So most builders in my area anyway mark up their houses about 15%. So naturally, if they could earn $22,000 off a $150,000 house versus $45,000 off a $300,000 house on the same piece of land with not too much extra effort, it really does make sense to go for the bigger house. This is why many new subdivisions today are filled with houses that many first-time home buyers can't even afford. Home builders are simply following the economics. Obviously, everything involved in building a house costs more today. Land costs more, building materials cost more, insurance costs more, labor costs more, and of course skilled tradespeople are becoming harder and harder to find thanks to the past generation really pushing the college education route. And if you try to get quotes for construction, pretty much anything construction recently, those costs can be eye-opening, and that's even if the contractor decides to even give you a call back. But home builders just aren't charging more because they're greedy. They're charging more because the cost of materials have pretty much skyrocketed since COVID. And eventually those higher cost of materials, they will get passed down to the home buyer, right? We're not in a COVID era inflation situation anymore, but thanks to a few things in the current economy, inflation is still pretty hot. So even when home prices stay the same, higher interest rates dramatically increase the cost of owning a home. Just a few years ago, 2021, 2022, many home buyers were locking in around a 3% mortgage rate. And today in 2026, rates are much higher, and that can add a few $100s easily to your monthly mortgage payment. And that leads buyers to face a double challenge: higher home prices and higher mortgage costs. And that is a tough combination for first-time home buyers just trying to enter the housing market. And this is one reason that roughly nationwide, 25 to 40% of first-time homebuyers actually use their parents' money for down payment or closing costs, which is really nice if you have financial support, but not everyone does. And if you've made it this far in the video, you're probably thinking, great, I'm doomed. but not necessarily. There are still opportunities out there for first-time home buyers. You may need to consider, existing homes instead of brand new construction, smaller markets and rural areas, some fixer-uppers that need work within reason, saving for a larger down payment which will help your borrowing costs, and being willing to start smaller than previous generations expected. The reality is that today's path of home ownership looks a lot different than it did for our parents, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. I just really encourage everyone not to get in a rush when buying their first home. Please always pay for an independent home inspection to know if what you're buying isn't going to cost more money when the next big rainstorm shows up. So buying a home is a huge part of the American dream, but thanks to inflation, the normal path of home ownership has changed a ton in just a few decades. The starter home didn't disappear because people stopped wanting one. The starter home disappeared because the economics changed. Building costs increased, homes got bigger, and of course interest rates rose. And first-time homebuyers got squeezed in the process. But despite all that, homeownership is still one of the best ways that us normal people can build wealth slowly over time. The challenge today isn't deciding whether homeownership matters. The challenge in 2026 is deciding, how do you get started being a homeowner? Anyway, I really appreciate you watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next week.